Hello, everyone, and welcome. Happy Saturday. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're coming from. Glad to have everyone here. I'm going to go ahead and share the link with you to our slides today so that you can interact. All right, and go ahead and spam the chat box with where you're coming from. If you're on social media, I see we already have people, a couple of people from Texas, Arizona, Fairfax, Bahrain. Nice to see you all here. And there's several people here that come often, and we even have some new folks. So welcome if you're new to Mathurdays. We're so excited to have you here. My name is Teresa Wells. I'm an assistant professor at George Mason University, and I've been teaching math online in this synchronous format for 10 years. I really enjoy teaching online, but over that time, I was able to slowly dip my toe into it and kind of test the waters. And so in that time, I've developed several strategies that I think make online learning really good, and happy to share them today. There's a couple things. In order to fully interact, you will need this link that I'm putting in the chat box. And on the first slide, I've got ways that you can stay in touch. So I've got email address, website, Twitter handle, and YouTube channel. And then up at the top is the Mathurdays link. And if you click that, you will find over 30 different problem sets, much like we're going to do today. So if you're looking for more rich tasks and more routines, you might check that out. And then on slide 2, I've got, that Mathurdays link also, but the templates link. And this is where you will find lots and lots of templates. You'll notice that they're relatively blank. This is room for students learning and not necessarily for, my what I write in there. So those are there. And if you would join me on either slide 3, actually, let's just do 3. We've got a nice small group here. If you join me on slide 3, add a text box or an image and tell us what's going on. What are your successes and celebrations in your life? And if we need more room, you can move it off to the side of the slide. We can add a new one. And I'll ask a couple of you to share what's happening in your lives. And Gail, what a great little image. Can you tell us about quadrilaterals?
So we were talking about quadrilaterals and diagonals. They knew that the diagonals of a rhombus intersected at right angles. And so then they were talking about, do any two lines that intersect, segments that intersect perpendicularly, will that automatically form a rhombus?
Very cool. Gail, were you part of the elementary math chat on Twitter this last Thursday?
No.
Ooh, so you might want to check this out. It was all about quadrilaterals. And Annie did an amazing job doing a notice and wonder with an application where they're moving different points to see which ones stay, a square, a rhombus, and more. You might check out that hashtag and see some of the ones that she put in there. It was really, really well done and all based on reasoning, and it was beautiful. So that might work with your lesson.
Great.
Who tried out the Convince Me That routine?
It's me, Jerry, from Seattle. Yeah, we tried it for the first time and my 5th graders loved it. It was really fun. It was good. Really good.
Very cool. And I see that you have the emojis in there also. Did students use those at all?
Yeah, they did. They love emojis. So yeah, that worked out great. And they were very excited when they got emojis. So it made it fun. Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. Who is sharing strategies in 1st grade? I love that book, Roosters Off to See the World. There's actually some really cool patterns in there. So who's that and how did it go?
This is Beth. So I'm an instructional coach, and this was in a first grade. We just went remote again here in Bahrain on Sunday. We start school for the week on Sunday. So first grader, I was modeling how to orchestrate sharing of the student strategies with the first grade teacher. So this was kind of near the end, and the students, it was just great for the teacher to hear them using essential vocabulary and the students getting very excited, me too, I did that, and naming what they did very well. So it was just exciting, and you have to love first grade, especially when we're teaching sixth and seventh and so on.
Oh, how fun. Oh, I would have loved to have been fly on the wall or fly in the Zoom for that one. I'm sure it was great discussions. If you're just joining us, welcome. I've put the link to our slides in the chat box. We're down on slide 3 and 4, just sharing some successes and celebrations that are happening in our world. And I also noticed that there's one here on slide 4. And Raha, you're giving a shout out to your coworkers. What's going on, and how are they there to support you?
Hi, Teresa. I just had a really bad afternoon because the kids kind of shut off in the afternoon. I mean, I don't blame them. It's virtual learning. So I have one specials in the afternoon, and then I just said, I'm going to go lay down. In the moderator chat, I said, I'm going to go lay down and like have some chocolate. And the specialists were like, you got this. It felt really nice.
It's so important to feel supported right now. And, teachers are being asked to do, I've always been asked to do above and beyond duties, but even more so now. So I'm so glad you have that support. Well, folks, this is how Mathurdays starts. We always start off with successes and celebrations. This helps kind of break the ice with a group, and I always do it with my students as well. They just get a moment to put their thinking on the slide, and every single person gets a voice, not just the people that are called on. So everyone's able to share there. And now we're going to move into the mathematics, and we're going to start with a routine. On slide 5, this is called connecting representations. And one thing about routines that I do is I try not to create anything new. Instead, I try to showcase established routines that are really, really wonderful, and just show how I do it in the online setting. So I've put the link to where I got these materials from, and they have many, many more there. And the way we'll do this routine is you'll notice there's a lot of duplicate slides below. And let me just kind of zoom out here real quick. There we go. And what you'll do is you'll put your name on one of these slides. That will reserve it for you so that nobody else is on that slide. And you're going to take these little stories and figure out which story goes with which graph, and you'll move them there. But you'll notice one story needs to be created. And also, one graph needs to be created. And if you're familiar, there's a scribble button under your line tools, and that will allow you to just freehand your graph. Once you finish with your slide, if you would turn your name box yellow, that will give me kind of a clue that you're finished, and it will help me out with classroom management. So without further ado, go ahead, grab a slide, pop your name in. I see many are already doing that. I'll include some more duplicates below. And if you're just joining us, welcome. Here is the link to our interactive slides. And we are doing a routine called Connecting Representations, and it starts on slide 6, but you can go ahead and find your own slide, put your name on it, and start connecting those representations. And again, welcome. If you're just joining us, the link to our interactive slides is in the chat box. We're currently having some think time. Starting on slide 6 and below, grab yourself a slide, put your name on it, and it's a matching situation where you match a graph to a story, but one of the graphs are missing and one of the stories are missing, and you'll have to fill that in. We'll take about another minute to think about this more. I do like to give people a heads up that I would love for them to share something, and I do that using a nonverbal cue of changing the outline of the thing I'm going to ask you about into green. So if you do notice that it turns green, just a heads up, and that was me doing that. All right, so I can see that several people have the name area yellow. I also know that I'm working with teachers, so I'm going to pause this here for a bit of a discussion. But, self-differentiate. If you would rather kind of finish up what you're doing or you'd rather browse what other people have, go for it. I want to showcase some of the classroom management skills that I have going on here. Because I can quickly arrow up and down, I can see each of my students thinking right away where they are in this problem, some of their initial thinking and the way that it's changed. And so I really do get a great glimpse of what my students are thinking. And I wanted to start off with the difference between the walking and the running. And Beth, on yours, you have walk and run. Let me find your slide if you want to let me know what slide you're on. I've lost it here. Here it is, slide 14. How did you distinguish between a walking and a running?
So I went back and forth on this one, but the running to me was steeper because he was covering more distance in less time. And so I differentiated that between the walking because it's steeper, whereas the bottom part after he stops for the water is kind of more stretched out and not as steep.
Oh, I like
If
your
that makes
use of
sense. And then the walking
steepness.
is, yeah, yes.
But it wasn't just steepness. You also mentioned this stretching over time because it is going to take me longer if I walk.
Yeah.
Cool. And sometimes I'll even ask my students, especially if I do this on a second day, I'll say that first graph, what would you need to infer from it if the first one was walking? And so if we make that walking, then we need to talk about, different paces, different speeds of that walking, and the running one would look very different. So it's more of like the reasoning behind it where you place things and not so much that there's exactly one right answer. I also wanted to check out a couple of the story problems. You all were so creative with these. On slide 20, Raha wrote a story problem, and I think it fits really nicely with the graph that she picked here. Raha, would you share with us on slide 20?
Sure. I have some background noise, so excuse that. Basically, because the slope was getting steeper every time, in my brain, the person is running still and doesn't really stop for a long time. So I just said Jacob ran to the store, then ran to the park, then ran to lunch because there's no coming back to his home because the distance from home never became zero.
Very cool. Yeah, so he keeps running further and further. Beautiful story. And then Julia, your story, let me see what slide you're on. I'd love to hear a little bit about, what made you think of this story on slide 12.
Hi, thanks. So I just wrote, during COVID, Jacob likes to get some exercise and wave hi to his friends from a safe distance. Jacob walked to his neighbor's house to say hi. Then he increased his speed to go say hi to his friend Elizabeth. Finally, he ran to his aunt's house. So at first, when I started writing, I wrote kind of he stopped at his neighbor's house, but then I was like, oh, the graph doesn't show that he's stopping. So it just needs to either be like a quick hi or there's a reason that he's increasing his speed at some point. So, and then I thought of COVID because we can't actually stop and say hi to anyone. So he's just like waving at his neighbors and then he like gets a little faster and he's also just kind of using that as an exercise thing.
Very cool. And I like how you did mention that point of like not stopping. And that's a tough one to think about. And I like your take on it here. Well, folks, on I like to use routines over several days. So on day 2, I might ask my students to create a different story problem where they've taken an idea from somebody else and kind of rewrote it there. I'll also ask them to kind of move some of the things around and what would that change in other situations, and also to summarize some similarities and differences that they find. But this is how I would do connecting representations in an online class to give students more choice and voice. So without further ado, let's jump into our rich task. This is where we get to really investigate the mathematics. On slide 31, I do have the reasoning why I do rich tasks. I like to always keep these in the forefront as I am a math education researcher, but also try to make sure that there's good pedagogy involved. And before we launch the task, I'd like to give everyone the opportunity to take the problem-solving oath. That's on slide 32. You can read it along with me. I, Teresa, promise to try my best. I will make sense of patterns and numbers. I will use manipulatives and drawings. I will make mistakes. I will ask questions. I will listen to other ideas. I will stay engaged by always trying to find another solution or representation. I am a problem solver. I make the world a better place. If you would like to publicly make that pledge now, go ahead and type your name in the chat box. That's how you can hold yourself accountable for making sure you do this today. It's exciting to see how many problem solvers we have. So today's task is a little different from other ones. I had a lot of fun making this. One of the teachers in a previous Mathurdays said, my students are learning to plot on the coordinate plane, and this is always a little bit of a tricky subject for us. So the activity that I have today, the task, is where each person in your group will look at a different pirate map. And you don't want to look at the other person, so just look at your own. And, resist the temptation to look at other people's, resist the temptation to share your screen, just look at your own. And on your own, you're going to have a prompt. Like, I would hide my treasure at, this kind of space. It is 4 down and 3 over, or it's at A2, so you're going to give some kind of a coordinate. And then people are going to try to guess what's there. Now, there's a problem with each of these graphs, or with each of these maps. So the area for hypothesis is where you can put what you think is wrong with your map or what's wrong with somebody else's. So I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. If everyone could turn on their mic, say which map they're going to look at, and remember, only look at one, and the prompts are directly on your slide, but I'll also be in your breakout rooms to see how it's going. Great. Okay, I've got groups ready. You're automatically going to go in. So turn on your mic, say hello, and let them know what pirate you're going to be, and you can click on that link to see your map. Here we go.
So, let's see.
Teresa, this is Lisa. I'm leaving to get in the truck to go get my COVID shot. Once we get in the truck, I'll be back on.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that you're able to get that.
We just got the thing. Oh, we're excited.
Yeah.
So I'll be back in a minute.
So I'm going to look at Jack Sparrow.
I will. Where are we supposed to be looking?
I'm not really sure. I clicked on the link and I see my map.
Group. Yeah, you are group
Where
number
do you
3.
see the link?
So you're going to head down to slide 35, and if you each pick a captain, then you will see their map, but you want to figure out who's going to be which captain, so you only see one map at a time.
We did that.
So do you see the prompt on the side of your map?
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to take turns saying, I am Captain Hook, and I'm going to put my treasure at, and you'll give us a location. Then everyone tries to guess what that location is. Your maps are slightly different though.
Okay.
Hi there. Sorry about your internet connection. Let's get you back into a group. Let's see. I'm going to put you down into group 4, and you can be partnered up. You can do any of the captains, and I'm going to move you there now.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, everyone.
Hi, group 4. You have another participant in here, and you can pick any one of the captains and work together. I have 5 captains total, so 2 of you will have a duplicate of what captain is yours.
Makeup room.
My map, it is A, J, like only letters are there.
So part of this is hypothesizing about the differences between our maps.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about the physical features of our maps? Like, what do we see?
So I
Yep.
think we're saying the prompts, right? Like, are we saying
That's what I,
like
yeah.
location
That
we
So if there's
we
like a
could-
clue that you, like if there's a clue that you could give about where your treasure is, we might try to guess it, based on the clue that you give us.
Group, you're exactly right. Laura, which captain do you have?
I have Captain Hook, of course.
All right. I want you to think about where you're going to hide your treasure and give everyone some kind of a coordinate type clue and see if they can guess where your treasure is hidden.
But I can't give the exact coordinate, correct?
You can give it as exact as you can.
Okay. So my treasure is AI.
And everyone else, look at your map. What is around AI? What do you think? Where is her treasure hidden?
So if I'm looking at capital A, lowercase I, I'm noticing a river or a body of water. Actually, not a river. There's sharks in it. On my map.
What about other maps? What's at that location?
Same for me. If I look at lowercase a, capital I, there's the body of water. But if I do
Uppercase A, lowercase I.
Lowercase I.
Hi there, group. How's it going?
It's going. I think we're confused.
That's all right. So these maps are a little different, and that's kind of part of what we're going to be figuring out. So let me ask Julia, I want you to think of a spot on your map where you're going to hide your treasure and tell everyone as best you can the coordinate of where that's at.
Okay. So I already said a hint, and I said it's under the mountains. Was that a good hint?
So let's give a hint that uses the coordinates
Oh, okay.
and see if they can guess what is there.
Okay. So capital JB.
Now, everyone else look at your map. What do you think is there? Capital JB.
Might have the compass. I mean, water.
Oh, okay.
What if I don't have J in my map?
Oh, yeah. One of the maps doesn't have J, does it? All right. And who has Captain Hook?
I do.
All right.
Susan.
Think about where you're going to hide your treasure and give us coordinates.
How about capital H, F?
All right, everyone. What do you have at capital HF?
Palm trees.
Pond.
What was the second guess? I heard palm trees and what else?
The pond.
Okay.
What else does people have there? And Susan, go ahead and tell us, what is at HF for you? Like, where is your treasure hidden?
So it is in the middle of a pond. It looks like there might be a fish there, but I'm not quite sure if that's a fish.
Oh. So that point HF is actually in the middle of the pond. That might help people think about what happened with their graphs. Keep on doing this. You all are doing a fantastic job.
Okay.
A group of palm trees.
Yes, that's it.
Hi, group. What have you noticed so far about the coordinates of your graphs?
One row is capital letters, one and the column is lowercase letters.
Okay,
And
so
if we were thinking about ourselves, we'd say, oh, this is the fourth quadrant.
ooh, very cool. Well, Lisa, I want you to think about hiding your treasure somewhere on that map and tell us the coordinates where your treasure's hidden.
Oh, I did that, and I said, and at first I said FH, and then I don't know who guessed. Somebody guessed. I said, oh no, because I did capital F, lowercase h, and she chose lowercase f, capital H, because she chose just west of the dead fish. And so,
Yeah. No, this is, I mean, because I'm looking at it just going, oh, I'm just going to put those two together. And here I am doing a task on graphing and completely forgot about the rules of graphing. You know,
So
go across first, up and down seconds.
right. And like something like this, you could use with fifth graders or whenever they first start graphing, and just move your coordinates, move the capitals to the bottom of the map would be so much fun.
Okay, Raha, what's with your map?
Okay, let's see. Right.
Not exactly. Real close.
Mine crosses two squares.
Oh, mine
The
is in
center
silver.
of mine is in one square. The center of my X.
Oh, someone's got a
my-
hypothesis for Captain Jack Sparrow. Very cool hypothesis.
Oh, I didn't write it down.
It's not just mine because we've all been talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just typed it up.
Good job, Jack Sparrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's see.
Did anybody say that their X fit exactly into the square?
Not for Blackbeard.
Not for Long John Silver.
Okay.
The little
So,
treasure.
All right, if you're watching this session, the recorded session, what I'm doing right now is just gathering some information so that I can hold a discussion. So I want to be very clear about the difference between these maps. One-Eyed Willie's map right now is an example of a coordinate plane where we don't show the y-intercept. We start at, like, let's say x equals 3. And so that y-intercept is kind of off the map. So this is trying to bring that to sight, that, it might not start at A or it might not start at 0. Blackbeard has capital letters on the vertical, lowercase letters on the horizontal. And so that fits nicely with Captain Hook's. Here's some of the difference between those. And when Captain Hook's has the capital letters on the top and the lowercase on the side, it will get to the importance of which way do we go first, x-axis or y-axis. The other thing with Captain Hook's is the image would have the coordinate inside the square as opposed to the intersection. Jack Sparrow's looks a whole lot like Captain Hook, except for you really start to see that, for example, the skull intersects on one of the eye, whereas Captain Hook's, that is now a blank space. So we get to that idea, is at the intersection or in between. And then we have Long John Silver's, which has a different scale.
The other thing that I'm also thinking about is that usually on the XY axis, that a lot of times we provide the coordinates by saying the X first and then Y. So
Yeah.
I right now I am using with horizontal.
I was doing it just capital letter first because in my head I'm more thinking of language at this moment, just being, okay, capital letters come first.
Yeah.
Y-axis. So that's a good point.
And when I put the coordinates in the group chat at first, I actually put my
Like, if then does that mean that the lowercase is X and uppercase is Y?
And I was even thinking lowercase and uppercase is positive and negative. But maybe that, I feel like we're all looking at the same thing, though, is the only thing. The same, except that I don't have a treasure.
So yours zoomed in, and someone didn't have K's too, right?
But I don't. Mine only goes through. My coordinate plane only goes through J.
No, mine goes all the way to J, A through K. The way that I'm looking at it, it seems like the lowercase letters are on the x-axis, and the uppercase letters are on the x-axis, and the lowercase letters are on the y-axis. And I want to say that this might be the fourth quadrant, but I'm not sure. I'm sorry, third.
I think you and I have very, like, Captain Hook, like, ours are some, because I interpret the uppercase as X and lowercase as Y as well.
Sorry, third, where everything is negative.
A through K, left side down vertically. Lisa, it sounds like yours is like mine.
It sounds like it, Gail.
That's why we found each other's really fasties at the beginning.
Yes. And you have K, and Raha had J. HK is the snake's mouth. Oh, look, Raha says hers is missing pieces. Aha!
A through K, horizontal uppercase.
Okay.
It's like really tempting to go peek at the other maps.
Don't do it! Don't do it!
I know what I'm not. I'm just looking to see. Are we supposed to put a hypothesis? Say the prompt discussion. Hypothesis. We had to write a hypothesis. Okay.
Yep.
Hi there, group. It's at the time we're going to have about 5 minutes where you can now view the other maps and see if some of the ideas you were thinking about panned out to be true. I've also posted them starting on slide 38 if you want quick access. Hi there, group. We're going to come together in 5 minutes to discuss some of the big ideas that were brought out here. At this point, you're more than welcome to look at all the different maps. I've posted them starting on slide 38 for quick access.
All right, thank you.
When you, okay, so
Like-
where's north for you? When you look at your compass, it is the
It's interesting.
Hi there, group. We're going to come back together in
Hi.
about 5 minutes. At this time, you're welcome to look at all the other graphs, and I posted them starting on slide 38 for your convenience.
Okay,
Thank you.
See if any of your hypotheses panned out.
if I'm looking at it straight on the map on the computer.
Yeah, so I think our lowercase a is the same. And then how about this? How many squares from the left, squares from the right towards the left is your n?
From the right towards the left, it's the second square in.
Okay, so that's exactly where mine is. Okay, so then
the
where's your
very top
treasure?
row. The opposite.
Okay.
Hi there,
Like-
group. At this point,
Hello.
I'm going to pull everyone back in 4 minutes. If you would like to, you may now look at the other captain's maps. I've pasted them starting on slide 38 for your convenience, and see if any of your thoughts and hypotheses panned out.
That's I love
Ooh,
it.
No, I really want to know now because I'm sitting here thinking,
I
like, why
know.
were there 5 maps and only 4 coordinate points?
Oh, the treasure. What? Oh my goodness. I'm looking at Long John Silver.
Yeah.
Yep, because that was the person we didn't have, so that's who I went to first. So Long John Silver's is very similar to what Captain Hook's map was, just zoomed out more.
It looks just like Jack Sparrow's.
Okay, let me go look at Jack Sparrow's. Let's see.
Oh, Blackbeard. Interesting. Wow, this is so cool.
Okay, so we were all looking at the same.
In the coordinates.
Oh, so I'm stuck on Blackbeard and mine. One I
Yeah, I like scale. You'd have to talk about scale with them.
Yeah.
And then vertical and horizontal.
And we have to communicate the same way, whether we are going to say the vertical first or we're going to say the horizontal.
Welcome back, everyone, to the main room. Hello there. We're all back together now. All right. Well, welcome back. I hope that you had fun with this. It was such a fun thing to make. And I have some very important questions to ask. If you would like to respond to these questions, please do it in the way that is your favorite. You can raise your hand and I'll call on you. You can just turn on your microphone and start speaking. You can also write in the chat box. And I'll try to call on a couple people who may have had that map also. And my first question is, why is scale important when graphing? And Remy, if you, I'd invite you to turn on your microphone because I think you had one that scale really mattered. And I'm curious what happened in your group and how that, how having Long John Silver's map made this either easy or difficult for you.
I only have A to E. So when someone described the map, that using J and K, and then I say, what? But I don't have it. What's going on?
Yeah, it's when you don't have the numbers that really kind of messes up, you know, the way that we're doing it. Let's see, any other comments about scale? Did anyone else have Long John Silver's? You can use emojis to show connections to what Remy said, or you can, you know, type in the chat if you also found that one to be frustrating or fun. The next question I had is about the order of the coordinates. I know this came up very often in the breakout rooms, and I'm curious what your takeaway is when it comes to ordering your coordinates. Feel free to put a hand up if you want me to call on you, put it in the chat. Why is order important? Julia, go ahead.
So it took us a while to figure out that the capital letters and lowercase letters might have been different for our groups. And one of the biggest things here is my language brain took over and went capital letters come first no matter what, instead of kind of thinking X and Y. So it took me a while to be like, oh, theirs are on different horizontal and vertical because I was on Blackbeard's, which had the capitals on the y-axis or the vertical axis. So it's just important that you can talk about that and make sure that everyone's on the same, or saying the same vertical or horizontal axis first.
Yeah, I had the joy of being in your group when you all were bringing that up. And, you know, not only were your axes messed up, so Jack Sparrow versus Blackbeard have the exact same map, but the capital letters and lowercase are there. But then I believe your group was also talking about, like, you should always do capital first. And so that does kind of change the dynamics. Other thoughts between Blackbeard and Jack Sparrow? Laura brings up the scale and the size of things and how that changes it. And that really came out in Captain Hook. Captain Hook's is very similar to others, but there's a slight difference here. And this is one that really comes up in middle school when I would teach coordinate planes. If you happen to see it, feel free to put in the chat box. What do you notice? Or raise your hand. What's the difference between those? And why might it be important? Angela, let's hear from you. And I see your hand up, Angela. If you'd like to turn on your mic, we'd love to hear from you.
I'm sorry.
Here goes.
I just have a clarifying question. What did you just say about capital and lowercase letters and about how they come first?
Oh, sure. Julia, I think that was your group. If that was, would you like to address that?
So I think I was just saying that normally you get the x-axis first and then the y-axis. But for me, the y-axis had the capital letters. So my language brain was like, oh, okay, capitals come first. So we were all describing them with the capital letter first and then the lowercase, but they were all doing x comma y and I was doing y comma x.
Okay, but math, we still do x comma y, right? So on these maps, we were still doing x comma y, correct?
Yeah, and I think
Yeah, I
that's
think
one of
that's
the big
my
things that
mistake.
we're debunking here is like, why is order important? And Angela, have you ever had students that mix it up and sometimes do y first and then x?
I do. And so I want to make sure that I'm teaching it right because we are supposed to be doing x comma y. That is correct? Correct?
Yes, we do. We do want to make sure
Okay.
we stick with that convention of X first, that
Okay.
horizontal
I
first.
just wanted to make sure that I wasn't screwing people up.
Yeah. But
Okay,
what does this
thank you.
activity bring to the forefront? Like, why is it important that we have this conversation? I know there was a conversation between, I think it was group 2. Beth and Allison were really talking about the importance of X and Y and why we do one over the other. Do you all want to share out what your group talked about?
I guess I can talk. This is Allison. I guess we were just puzzling with each other about where on the coordinate grid we were looking and how like the orientation of our maps, and could we be looking at different like quadrants? Could one represent positive numbers be the lowercase and negatives be the uppercase, or vice versa? So it was really fun for us to try to look at ours and visualize how ours fit with everyone else's. I think I was really surprised. Sorry, I'm not really answering your question, Teresa.
Sorry,
but,
you're great.
I was really surprised with that the orientations, north was always north for everybody. So it was like, because when we went through this, I was thinking about all different things. Like, could they be could the maps be rotated? So we're looking like at it from a different perspective. So it was really fun to try to puzzle through that. And then we had to use that language with each other to try to see, we had to use that common language of the X and the Y in order to connect with each other and make sure what we were talking about was the same as the other person. So kind of to circle back to what you asked, our X and Y came in because we, as a group, used that as a place for us to really ground, to make sure we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I'm hearing that you had to make a convention for the purpose of communication, which is exactly what we do when we graph on the coordinate plane. Is it Daliz? Am I saying your name right?
Yes, you are.
Great.
I just wanted to add to what Allison was saying about the conversation in group 2. One interesting thing that someone brought up, and I thought it was really clever, it's thinking about we weren't necessarily acknowledging the fact that the maps weren't the same. We thought they were different. And then I thought of, what if each map is part of a quadrant and we're kind of looking at the bigger picture? So that is something that we were tinkering about. And then we realized, well, there's a fifth map that we're not looking at and we're only 4 people. So that would kind of debunk the whole idea of there's 4 quadrants and there's 4 maps. And then since there's a fifth one, then that wouldn't necessarily work. So, kind of like, this makes me think of giving students clues to use, kind of describe the physical features of their map to see if they're the same. I feel like we focused a lot on trying to find the treasure itself and didn't see whether or not the maps were the same. And then seeing the other map and looking at the fact that it was zoomed in, where it was literally only one part of it compared to what I had in Jack Sparrow. So that was pretty interesting.
And that's what kids will start to discover with these maps also is they're so eager to talk about their treasure. And when someone doesn't even have the treasure on it, like, oh, wow, we really got to talk about what's different. And there were two other concepts in here that we could continue to discuss with our students. One of them is look between Captain Hook and where the fish's tongue is. And the fish's tongue on Captain Hook is in the space between capital H and lowercase f. However, on some of the other maps, such as Jack Sparrow, it's at the intersection. And that's a major difference that we see in mathematics. When we plot points, are we putting it on the space in between the numbers, or are we putting it at the intersection of those grid markings? And I know for me, when students start off with letters, they really want to put it in that open space as opposed to the actual intersection. So I really like the idea that the fish's tongue is in two different spaces so that we can have that conversation about how do we say the coordinate of the tongue? Do we move these letters onto the lines, or do we keep them in the gaps? And then the last conversation that I would have with students is so frequently when we make graphs, they'll look like one-eyed willies, which is on slide 42. And one-eyed willies, what this is representing is a graph that we zoom in just like, let's say, the first quadrant. So the origin isn't here. And that's super important, especially when they get into graphing using slope intercept form and more, because our y-intercept or that treasure marking is actually off the graph. And that becomes really important if we're graphing different lines. So I will kind of demonstrate what that might look like with this fish and the X. So I'm going to draw a line. Let's say this was the one that the students were graphing on slide 41. And then that same line down on slide 42. This line. And what we'll see is that what appears to be that y-intercept is different on each one. It looks like it's in the middle of J. It looks like it's going down below K. And so I like to bring out this this in the activity because it really kind of showcases what happens when you don't show that y-intercept. So if we start a graph at 1 as opposed to 0 on the x-axis. And this activity could go on into multiple areas. The questions that I use today, just for you all, for teacher thinking, are on slide 43. And I feel like doing this activity at the beginning of a graphing unit and then coming back to each of these questions, there's almost like a new daily activity. We talk about scale. We talk about the importance of convention and ordering your coordinates. We talk about, do we want to show the origin or do we just want to show one part of the graph? And do we plot the points at the intersections or the spaces? So this is the first time that I've done this activity. I can't wait to do it with students. I definitely think as a teacher, I want to refine my directions a little bit clearer on it. If you all have any feedback on ways that you might change it or ways that you might use directions, definitely feel free to put that in the virtual parking lot. I'll use that. If you have other things that you would like to see in these sessions, pop those in the virtual parking lot as well. And I'll stay online for anyone who has any other questions, comments, interested in virtual learning, and more. But thanks for being with me today for Mathurdays.
Hey, Teresa, I have a question for you. This is Allison. How intentional, and this is just, I'm just looking at how you crafted these maps. How intentional were you on each one about like how you centered the letters, like if you, or how you justified the letters? Like I'm looking at Jack Sparrow's and I can see the letters across the top are like, what is that, left justified in each cell? Mm-hmm. whereas, and same with Blackbeard, but then I noticed on like Long John Silver that they were like centered. Was that intentional?
Long John Silver's was definitely intentional. I actually had a little mistake here that I would love to go back and change, and that was, where's the one with the fish's tongue? Captain Hook's. I actually wanted the letters to be on the lines themselves, as opposed to in the spaces to bring that out a little bit more. But I stopped paying attention to the justification, like left or right justified, after that first one.
I was just curious because I didn't, until you brought that up about where, like I totally looked in the spaces versus on the lines, and in the intersection of the lines when we were having our discussion. And I think, but I was wondering, that's just was really interesting to me how the letters were justified when I looked between them, and was wondering if that was intentional. So,
and
thanks.
I think I can actually pull them over to be like on the line. Maybe not. Maybe that's as far as I can go. I'm just playing around with some of the margins here. So I might do that a little differently. I can kind of put J and K over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be interesting what kind of conversations come out of that too. So
absolutely.
We'll just
Yeah, thank you so much. I also realized that when I find out that I don't have the letters that others have, and I'm still just kind of like pondering upon it. Oh, how come mine is not the same? But not until we continue on the conversation that different people kind of like sharing about what they noticed on their map. And then someone was saying that, do you see a snake? And then I said, oh yeah, I saw the snake. And that is the conversation that people bring up. And then that made me think about the entry point for those like me that I don't know how to enter because I just feel like that I don't have anything compared to because people kept talking and I stay on it. Then I find out that, oh yeah, my snake only covered 2 space. And then the other was saying that, oh no, it is not like mine. Then I thought about, oh, it's because of the scale. And then we all kind of like have the same, haha, oh, okay, now what to do? But then for me, I'm also thinking about, I said I need to draw it out. So do you have any suggestions for those students that they really need to draw things out, but I couldn't draw it?
Yeah, in terms of drawing it out, there's a couple things that I'm playing around with. I think Jamboard has some nice options to freehand draw. And then as students are learning more and more how to use the scribble tool, I think that that's helpful. But as I listen to you, I'm wondering if it would have made more sense for slide 38 of Long John Silver's to do a variation like slide 39, where now you do have some of those letters, but not like the in-between letters. So you might have to guess where B is and D is. And so maybe that variation would either be nice to have another graph like that or to just change that.
Sorry, I'm still hanging around. I think that's a great variation, Teresa, with the skipping. I think that would create a lot of really interesting conversations.
And I think those conversations are about scale too, because sometimes on my graph, I'll only label the 5s, like 5, 10, 15, 20. I think I'll switch to the variation when I do it with kiddos.
This is so brilliant, Teresa. I'm so excited about this. Oh, I have to thank Allison for inviting me. She's like, can you do this? I'm like, yes.
I've been working with my son on understanding regrouping with subtraction. And he gets it when he's really focused, but still, like if there's a 4-digit number minus a 3-digit number and you would only need to regroup in one of the place values, like there's that common mistake of like, oh, let me just flip them around and do it the other way. So then we started looking at Egyptian numbers and Chinese numbers and all these other number systems. And he started to do the subtraction problems using those. And he was like, well, of course I would exchange a lotus flower for 10 coils of rope, and then I can do the subtraction. And it was through that activity that I realized that sometimes the best way to uncover these misconceptions is making it like another situation. So we use A, B, C, D instead of the numbers, so that they can make those connections between the letters and the numbers. So that's kind of what inspired it here.
That's very cool. Tell Evan thank you.
I will. And thanks for joining us. What time is it over there?
It is 9 p.m. So worth it. And a new colleague next year, he's in New York. So I messaged him quickly, said, I can't do it today, but definitely tell me next time. So I'll bring him on board.
Oh, very cool. And it'll be neat seeing the changes that you do when you're teaching 6th grade next year. Well, when do you start teaching?
We'll head there in July, and I'll start, I think they start like first week of August. So cool. 6th grade math only, and they're trying to detrack middle school, and so they are talking about starting it with 6th grade next year. And for this school in particular, that's huge to detrack in 6th, 7th, and 8th. So, but I'm excited about that. It'd be good to investigate, research, and make happen. So very excited to be a part of that.
I can't wait to hear more.
Yeah. Yes. Teresa, thank you. Thank you so much. I love your skipping letters, because I was trying to describe it with the A, B, C, D, E, but then like if it is number, then I can say, oh, it is at 1.2 or 1.3. But then with letter, I don't have anything between A and B.
Mm-hmm. Or like 8.5. That'd be something I'd expect some of my students to come up with, is, like halfway between A and B. So 8.5.
Oh, I like that.
I think I'm going to move with that variation. I think that brings out the concept a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, well, have a happy Saturday. I look forward to seeing many of you all next week, and, keep sharing your ideas.